Good day, Rabbi.
Good day, Joe.
And may I add, happy birthday.
Thank you very, very much. And I'm 75 today.
3/4 of a century and going strong.
I I would really like to think of it in Celsius, but since I can't quite do the math, I'll have to keep it at 75.
We're not recording this on the Jewish Sabbath, but the Christian Sabbath. So we're working on a Sunday and we're working on your birthday. But are we working or are we just having our usual good time in front of the camera?
So let's start with clarifying something you just referred to as the Christian Sabbath. Wrong, mon ami. The Sabbath never moved, it never was changed. Just ask the Seventh-day Adventists or Jehovah's Witnesses. The Sabbath is Saturday. Sunday became the Lord's Day. And often people make that mistake of thinking that the church moved the Sabbath. If you talk to anyone who knows what's happened, they're going to tell you, no, it's Saturday still is the Sabbath, and Sunday is the Lord's Day. So one should be in church, one should be doing good deeds on the Lord's Day, and not necessarily refraining from work, because that was yesterday. So that brings up a good question, though. Here I am. What constitutes work?
Well, I never saw this as work, but just a joyful exercise that we do now and then and share with the rest of the world. But is it work? I know Orthodox Jews will not do very simple mechanical tasks.
Yeah, the rabbis in the Talmud enumerated 36, I think it's 36 categories of work. So often people use the word work as we define it in the West, and that doesn't apply. The rabbi specifically said this is what's prohibited on the Sabbath, and they looked at different activities, kindling fire, making certain things happen. And they said, this is what we're going to refrain from on the Sabbath within these categories. So we don't want to use the word work as we would think of work. Because if I'm leading services on the Sabbath, I'm getting paid. That's my job. I'm working. Yet that's not, leading services is not considered work. So when we talk about work, we want to separate a religious group's definition from the rest of the universe. And what does constitute work? Do I have to get paid if it's considered work? What do you think, Joe?
Well, I always said you have to get paid. That's why they call it work. Otherwise, it would be called a paid vacation. But is it something that you don't want to do, but it has to be done? Because I enjoy many of the jobs that I get paid for. And I have a feeling seeing you on the pulpit, or is that the correct term for being on the bema doing a sermon, that you seem to have a good time up there.
Absolutely. And so that you've raised a really good question, because we always joke and say, well, they call it work because you don't want to do it. And then, okay, what about getting reimbursed for something, for an activity? Is that considered work, even if you do enjoy doing it, because you're getting a remuneration for your time, for your training, for your effort, for your background, whatever it might be? And so does enjoying something eliminate it from the category of work? Does work have to be something I detest, I don't want to do, and I have to do it in order to pay the bills? That's kind of a strange question. What do most people do when they retire? It's kind of, what are you going to do when you retire, Joe?
Well, I'm going to keep doing things, but I'm not going to do things that other people tell me to do. I'm going to do things that I want to do. But I have friends who have retired, and we have mutual friends who have retired and don't know what to do with themselves because nobody's telling them what to do. And so they start looking for work. I have one friend who's actually asking his old office if they let him come back a couple days a week.
And that's not at all unusual. And I think that's very, very strange because while we're working, we complain, we look forward to sitting out on the porch, overlooking the ocean and having some relaxing time. Then once we get here on the porch, gee, what am I going to do today? Gee, no one's telling me what to do. And what if I decide to become a barista or a bartender? And then I'm going to get paid for that. So now I'm working, but I'm retired. It's kind of a strange mindset that we've created with what constitutes work and what constitutes free time. You know, very often I'm doing nothing. And my wife will say to me, gee, I'd like you to, can you do this? Can you do that? Whenever you're finished. And if I'm doing nothing, I never know when I'm finished. It really is hard sometimes for me to organize my day because I don't know.
Well, I've met many retired people, couples, families who have started businesses because was their dream. And they always wanted to do this. Sometimes it ends well, sometimes not so well. And then I've met other families, couples, individuals who have started businesses and enterprises because they didn't know what to do with themselves. So they said, well, I'll try this and see what they do. They tend to, even when they fail, go a little bit better because they have the wisdom of experience and the knowledge of hedging their bets a little bit.
Plus maybe another income. Maybe they have annuities, maybe they have Social Security. So you're not so dependent on the money coming in, so you can be more relaxed. One of the things that's really consistent in the literature, people who start a business from a hobby are miserable, and it's usually unsuccessful or marginal, and the people aren't happy. And that's one thing they tell you to stay away from. If you have a hobby, don't make it into a business.
Right, because you don't understand the business side of it. And you've been paying people money for decades to support your hobby, but you don't know how to get that money back.
Back again. So it's not quite what it seems. Then there's volunteering. Why do I want to volunteer to do what I used to get paid to do? That doesn't set well with me. If I'm going to volunteer, maybe it should be something that I would not have gotten paid for. But then again, I can't do that because I don't have the skill or talent. The only things I can volunteer for are those that I'm trained in. And I'm going to do for free what I used to get paid for. Somehow that seems weird.
But I have success. There are success stories too. One of my daughter's favorite teachers in middle school was a retired colonel, but he became a science teacher. And he was wonderful at it. I saw him teach a couple classes. And there's nothing quite as arresting for a young mind as seeing your teacher set himself on fire and then explain while his arm is burning why it's not hurting so much and other elements of science to go along with that. But, you know, my mother once confessed to me that when my father retired, he was just around the house driving her crazy all the time. And so he wanted to go back to work. And she said, why does he want to go back to work? And I said, probably the wisest words I've ever uttered on the subject, where there's a big difference between having to work and wanting to work. And maybe that's where it is.
Yeah, maybe that's the definition then of work. If I want to do it, it's not work. But if I don't want to do it, but I'm doing it for a variety of reasons, then it is work. Is that a working definition? Or is that just another artificial? I mean, I like the definition in physics. Work has to do with energy and motion. There's a whole formula, but that's a scientific definition of work and doesn't put the human being into it. It's more like a mechanical. And that may be what we're looking for, but that doesn't exist with people.
Well, one thing I know isn't work, and it's the time we spend together talking about these things. So once again, I have enjoyed myself. Mazel tov on your birthday. Is that appropriate, or
Yes, it is. That's appropriate. And thank you for the good wishes. What we say is, may you live to be 120, because that's how old Moses was. His eyes undimmed, his strength unabated. And so when you wish someone to live to 120, you want them to emulate Moses's health as well as his length of years.
Well, good luck and best wishes over the next 45.
Thank you very much. Good day, Joe.